You're listening to Crowning Ignorant Kings, a podcast for citizens with like minds who love God, follow Christ, and have a desire to be an ambassador for the kingdom of heaven on earth. We are John and Charlene Donelson. We're teachers building a kingdom community. Thank you again for joining us. Now let's adjust our crowns.
Because we keep promoting people quickly as stars. Sometimes the guilty party is not the person who fell, but those who placed them there. The Apostle Paul was talking about leadership one time, and he said, Timothy, if you want to choose leaders, first of all, do not choose a novice. For they've not been tested yet, he says. Results. Now, leadership is manifested through two main sources. And that's why I'm happy for this conference and many more that will come to this great community, because we need to have more of these conferences. Conferences on leadership. Here's why. The two ways that leadership is manifested, the first one is through crisis and circumstances. If you study all the great leaders in history, most of them became leaders through crisis. But here's another thing to remember. Most of the leaders, even in the Caribbean, are products of crisis. If you study the leaders who founded this nation, it was crisis that birthed Trinidad. And almost every nation in the world is birthed through crisis. The early leaders of our countries, for example, they were forced to be leaders because they had to deal with oppression, colonialism, and they wanted to throw off something. They didn't sit down and say, well, I'm going to be a leader, so I'm going to take a course in leadership so I can become a leader. No, they didn't even think about being leaders. They just wanted to deal with a circumstance. Nelson Mandela never took a course in leadership. He's just a lawyer. But circumstances made him a leader. Mother Teresa never took a course in leadership, but she was under circumstances in poverty in India that she emerged as a leader from circumstances. I studied all of the African leaders in African states, and when you study the history of those leaders, 90% of them became leaders through circumstances, not through training. Now this creates problems for us in the Caribbean, because if your leaders become leaders through pressure, circumstances, and crisis, then you really got leaders who were never trained. Are you listening to me carefully? So even though you may have leaders in the nations of our region, most of them are leaders not through intentional training, but they are products of pressure, which means you got power without skill. Authority without technique. You got position without principles. And this is why 80% of the post-colonial nations are still struggling. Because those who bought them out of slavery cannot take them into freedom. So they're stuck in deliverance. Because to move from deliverance to freedom, you must have skill. Inspiration can move a people out of slavery, but skill will take them into freedom. One of the sad things about our people in our region, those who are in leadership, is that once you give them a title, they figure they got everything else. Are you all listening to me? This is why it's so dangerous to promote people, whether it's politics or whether it's in the church or whether it is in civic leadership. Once you get them a title, you're in trouble. They stop learning. It's amazing that we vote people into power to run our countries and they can't even run their own houses yet. You got a guy in your country, in my country, who's in charge of economic development, and he never had a business. I mean, we are amazing people. We vote for these people, and they ain't run nothing yet. No experience, no training. Leadership. Paul said to Timothy, Timothy, first of all, don't choose a novice. Secondly, he says, do not appoint anyone who cannot run their own home well. See, your house is your first organization and business. You got to be skillful to run a house. Some of you all know what I'm talking about. A house is a business. You got the president, the vice president. You got the board, that's the kids. You got property, you got resources, you got income, you got outgo, you got expenditure, you got board meetings. It's a powerful institution. And most people fail in that one and want to run your life. This is why God measures anyone who wants to serve in his house to first run their house. Your anointing doesn't qualify you to be a leader in God's house. Boy. So every time people come to me, this is just how I test it. My test is, no matter how deep you think you are, how powerful you think you are, my questions when I meet you are very strange questions. I don't ask you, how was your crusades? How many miracles did you see this week? No, I ask you, how long have you been married? Where is your spouse? How many kids do you have? Are they all with her? Are you still married? Who else are you sleeping with? See, these are more important than all the miracles because character is more important than reputation. Reputation is what the public knows. Character is the truth that you hide. The real you. Hey, boy, that's a bad time to get up right there, brother. I hope you didn't get up because I said something. You okay? You all right, right? Okay. Yeah. Don't. At certain points, you don't move. I learned that years ago. Don't move at certain times. You just want to move in this meeting. Let me wait till he gets over this point here. Make the preacher wonder, The second way leaders are created is, and this is the one that we need to develop in the Caribbean, through intentional training and development programs. This is why having a conference like this is so important. We need to stop allowing our leaders to run on circumstances and history. And they should now be performing out of training and expertise. Jesus Christ spent 3.5 years not building a large ministry. Matter of fact, he protected himself from a large ministry. He spent 3.5 years training 12 leaders. That's all he wanted. Because he knew if I could train them properly, then I can change the world. One time, it was amazing. His organization grew in one day. You all remember that? Do you know when it grew? When he had a crusade and he fed 5,000 people. People like to come with his free things. Come on, let's talk about this for a second. Free miracles, free food, free fish, free bread. Yippee! I'm with you, brother. Right on. Hey, you're my man. I'm with you. Yes, sir. And then the next day, there was 70. From 12, 70. Bam. 82 members. When he recognized what happened, he said, why do you follow me? Now, you know, no pastors never ask that question. They just glad you're there. They see more offerings. He said, why do you follow me? And before they could answer, he said, I know why you follow me. Is it not because of the fish and bread I fed you yesterday? And then he put the pressure on them. He said, look, if any man wants to follow after me and be my students, if you want to join my school, he says, that's what disciple means, student. He says, first then you got to eat my flesh, not the bread, and drink my blood, not that water you had yesterday. In other words, I want your total allegiance to me, not to what I can give you. The next verse says, and they said among themselves privately, this is a hard saying. He wants too much. Is he crazy? We're only here for what we can get, not for his purposes. It's my paraphrase. It says, and they all forsook him and left. Okay, 82 people and 70 left. That's 90% of your church walked out in one day. Some of you pastors would faint. Oh, you have a heart attack. Oh my goodness, that's it. It was over. Follow me now. What does he do? He not only not went after them, but he turned to the 12 that was left and asked this question. Do you want to go also? Clap, 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 clap. Man, that's good stuff. Woo! Wow. Isn't that good? Let me tell you what I learned from him in that instance about leadership. Listen to me about the coffee. This is what I learned. I learned that in Jesus' mind, leadership, listen carefully, has nothing to do with followers. Write it down, please. You are not a leader until you are willing to go by yourself. If you need people to need you, you are a victim of people. He was willing to go alone because he had an assignment that was more important than the approval of people. We need training. He trained them. By the way, Peter answered the question when he asked it. Do you want to go also? Peter says, Master, you know we really want to leave you because we think you're crazy. Paraphrase. He said, but where are we going? We have found.
Thank you for listening to Crowning Ignorant Kings, where we are cultivating a kingdom community. Please sign up for our podcast, download, like, and share. Look for us on your social media platforms. If you'd like to reach out to us, please send us an email at crowninignorantkings@gmail.com.